welcome to this panel discussion. The topic is very timely, connecting Nordic, the benefits of the more integrated Nordic region for regional economy and security. I would like to first introduce our panelists. We have the Chair, Grand Committee of the Parliament of Finland, Saara-Sofia Sirén. We also have the Mayor, City of Vantaa, Mr. Pekka Timonen. Then we have the CEO, Oslo Stockholm 2.55, Jonas Karlsson, and Director for Economic Development, City of Lappeenranta, Ding Ma. And then we have one more panelist, but he will join us a bit later, Regional Mayor, Region of Southwest Finland, Mr. Jyri Arponen. But now we are going to travel to the future, and we will hear the opening speech of Mr. Timonen.
Thank you, Nina, and it's a great pleasure to be here today and also have great people with me here in the panel. First of all, I have to give you some secrets or excuses. I'm a very Nordic person. In my family there are 3 daughters. One of them lives and works in Oslo. One of them works for the Foreign Ministry of Iceland, and one works for the Swedish Bank. So I cover quite well, and one lives in Oslo, so I'm hoping for the train. Have a special. So I have some personal interest in this matter. So please excuse that. But also, as Nina said, during my whole adult life, there has been this discussion about how to connect Nordics better, how Nordics would work better together. But in real life, this hasn't been moving forward last 20, 30 years as we maybe have dreamed. And there have been various reasons why that has been. And I also must say that let's go back to only just a few years when COVID came. What happened? We Nordic countries, we didn't work together. I think that was a big strike for us. Every single Nordic country put their own policies, closed their borders or kept them open, and then we didn't work together. I hope that that kind of a wake-up call for us too, that we also must do things in a real life. And this panel is about how we move forward. And then also we have a great moment right now. As Nina said, never in my adult life the situation has been, I wouldn't say better because of some of the great geopolitical reasons, but let's say more acute question, how we combine and put Nordic countries in a better connection and how we move forward in our collaboration in general. So let's put up the facts as we all know. We are distinct countries, but we are a region that in very many matters works together and acts as one. We are 27 million people, more or less, and we are connected by various cultural, economic and industrial connections. And then, of course, stronger together is the theme for today's discussion. Should we be, and I said, answer is yes, but how? How we move forward and create a connected region by 2040. And again, it's not the periphery, it's the northern hub, it's the new north, whatever we want to call it, but understanding that we are a big player in the Europe's development and now in defense, but also as a one region, we should and could and will have a bigger role. So let's see. By 2040, if we are a single connected region, we see an interesting picture how we are connecting. We could actually go into north and see the whole picture, because also in the north we are probably getting more connected. So let's think about the links, of course, capital to capital links, what we see here, but also if we look at geopolitics around us. If you now look what happens around us in a bigger world, well, I think I hope we all can agree that this looks very nice. We all working together. We don't have big problems between us, and the need for us to be strong is bigger than many times. So the idea that we strengthen our links in reality, I think there's a true need for that. How we do it, that's what I would like to hear from you later. economic imperatives, how the economy of the world is changing. And if you now look, it's becoming a picture of big players. They try to dictate the rules of the trade, how the economy is developing, state support is coming back in a very strong way, how we react as a Nordic countries. And in this world, it's clear to me that working together is the better way than working alone, because we are all small in the big games. So in the world of the bigger and bigger players and the idea of big players, how we will become a big player. And then, of course, strategic necessity in a way to order the movement of people, trade, goods, military, whatever it is, we are not ready. So we have to do something. And then there are, as we can see this picture, Oslo-Stockholm, connecting better, Helsinki-Stockholm, how we move between these two capitals in the future, and not in a future which is 2157, but in the 2040s. And then we have a project which is still alive. By many people think what it is, but I must guarantee you that Helsinki-Tallinn is still alive. And actually in Tallinn they are already building a station for that, for the Rail Baltica, and that the idea is that that's where it's coming. So it's there, and I've always said that this will happen immediately when it's possible, economically, politically, whatever. But thinking about it will not happen is not a very fruitful way to approach the project. So building new corridors and renewing old corridors, and if we look carefully, not that much has happened in these connections last 30 years. So why? I don't know, but now by 2040 we must do something. So let's see also from where many of here are Finns, so let's see at this from the Finnish perspective of view, how we connect ourselves to the most important region for us. This is the question with Nordics. And how we make sure that it is the most important region for us. Connectivity, European Union programs. We tend in Finland to think about that we apply money for domestic projects between Helsinki and Turku, or between Kuopio and Joensuu, or whatever. We must think bigger. We must think about the bigger region, how different projects help to form out the bigger network of connections and networks. And I don't have any opinion about tunnin juna, as we say, but only saying this is an important connection east-west. And then also for Turku, Turku is also having a very strategic position in this east-west axle. And then growth and integration of urban areas. As a mayor, this is a big thing for me. And how the growing urban areas are connected and working together. Our cities in every Nordic countries are growing, and especially capital regions are very fast growing. I think Oslo was the fastest growing capital region in the whole Europe for several years, quite recently. So our capital regions are growing, they are getting bigger, they are becoming more important. So how we make sure that this growth and the integration of urban areas creates us more wealth, more power, stronger cities, Turku also in that axle, and all big cities in the Nordic countries. Also our cities are coming similar. That's a very interesting notion. As a mayor of Vantaa, we a long time thought that Stockholm is a very multicultural, very diverse population. Now Vantaa's numbers are in line with Stockholm numbers. Many people are surprised by that. Helsinki capital region is not that different from the Stockholm region anymore. So our cities are growing similar in that way. How the population structure, Oslo is the same thing, Copenhagen of course is the same thing. So our cities are somehow becoming also similar. We are not that different anymore. How we work together. And then Vaasa and Umeå also in a higher, and Oulu, Luleå, Narvik, all those connections. And then finally, this is also about competitiveness. How we think that we will survive and be stronger in the changing world. I think only one word is possible: together. Because if we are not able to combine, having so close relations, having so little problems between each other, if we are not able to combine and capable of combining our strengths together, we will not be stronger. If we all go alone, the result will be much less stronger than it will be together. And I think this is also a political challenge. How we create this kind of political atmosphere where Nordic countries can really go forward and decide together more and more things. And then labor markets. We have a joint labor market, but is it really working properly? We need connections. We need other ways to make it work more better and better. And that also reminds me that we have sometimes in the Nordic countries quite many things that work in theory, but not in practice, as in today's world they should. And then, of course, tourism, the fastest growing business in the world, aside some other EIA businesses and others. How we make our region attractive for the global tourism. And then, of course, living. Should and could we live in the future so that one feet in one Nordic country is another one in the other country? Is that possible to make your life like that? And I think Copenhagen-Malmö area is a good example of how suddenly it becomes a one urban area and people move around it. And then, of course, sustainability and green transition as a part of the competitiveness, but also making our societies more sustainable. And we all know that this is not a choice, this is a must. We have to do it. So also evaluating our projects and our things together on that framework, how that helps to create our societies, and not only seeing them as one connection, for example, but seeing them as things that investments that make other things possible. That what becomes possible when this is done. And so my final conclusion and then kind of starting for the discussion here is that isn't this the best option to move forward? What are the better options than working together? And then what are the better options that by 2040 we are either already created or very, very intensively building a truly connected Nordic region. And now I want also for my colleagues here to explain me how to do it. Not whether not only if they want it, but also how to do it. So for our last member, I'm just saying here very briefly, world is moving in the direction that we must work together in the Nordic countries. Secondly, we must be better connected to each other. And thirdly, from very nice talks and speeches, how we move to the reality and make things together. That's very briefly my message to you.
I agree.
So with this Nordic starter or kickstart for the discussion, I hope it raises you some ideas, but also puts forward your thoughts and mindsets. So kiitos, thank you, tack så mycket, tack för er for being here, and let's see, Nina, how we now move forward.
Thank you very much, Pekka. You gave us a lot of valuable thoughts to develop further. For those who don't know yet, Pekka is one of the best speakers we have in this country, so we got a proof of that already. Now, Finland and Sweden have been members of the European Union for 30 years, and now also members of NATO. Russia's attack on Ukraine has reshaped the security and political landscape in the Baltic Sea region and the Nordics. In southern Finland, we have identified an urgent need for stronger and more permanent connections to the West, especially now as Finland increasingly risks becoming an island. So first set of questions I would like to address to Sara and Jori and Ma. Why is Nordic integration more relevant today than ever before? And what potential benefits could it bring to the economy, security and the resilience of our societies? Sara, ole hyvä.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the speech. It really set the mood for this cooperation and this panel. I also like this incoming of you, Mr. Regional Mayor, since you concretely showed how it was a bit silly for me to be in isolation here, and when we have the fixed link coming in between Minnet panel, now it works, and now we have the full cooperation here in the panel. So that was really nice of you to join us. I also want to start by sharing my Nordic experiences. I just realized this while I was listening to you, Pekka, that I am from Turku. I live here. I work in Helsinki, but I have lived in Oslo in my childhood. I've worked in Copenhagen. I lived there. I have not lived in Stockholm, but I did do an exchange in Linköping, so maybe that counts as well. And as for your question, I think you already answered yourself too with the introduction. The world around us, the security environment has changed, and it has changed for good. Even though there has been a very strong link and strong cooperation between Nordic countries already before, now it's underlined that this is the way we are moving towards, we are strengthening it, and it's more and more important for us. We can feel it especially here in Finland, but other Nordic countries understand it too. The most important themes of today, I feel, and also during the Eurooppa-forum these past 3 days, the keywords have been security and competitiveness. And the Nordic cooperation is directly both of these. It's about security, it's about the connections that we have together, it's about the shared values we have and share that we work with, for example, in other international and global tables. And it's about competitiveness. Like you said, we need to be a bigger player, and we cannot be that alone. We need to work together, and we have a lot of possibilities. And I like to think that we need bigger strategic view what it could be in the future. And these connections are part of this concretely. This is the basis if we want to have further interaction, further cooperation. We want to have growth, research, security. I mean, let's do it.
Sure.
Thank
Your
you.
thoughts?
My apologies for being late. I was waiting taxi for a very long time, but here I am. I'm very sorry about that. Yeah, you actually told it all, but I think that to be more concrete, maybe, I think our tools for growth in Finland are limited. Mm-hmm. We are too small country for prosperous, sustainable economic growth. So I think that it's vital for us to really look to the West. And since we've been a member of the European Union, it has become like a daily basis. We don't really think what is being a European, and we are still the island. I think we've been like an island for thousands of years. So now it's time to change that. And the only thing to do it is really connect us to the West. And those lines are the best ones. I think the route to Tallinn, maybe, that will help us to connect with the rail, Baltic. And maybe that would help to be part of the reconstruction in Ukraine. And the other part, directly to the West, it would combine the whole southern Finland to Scandinavia. And the bigger Stockholm region would be part of, in our vision, be part of the southern Finland. And that would be a new power region for a huge R&D and economic growth. More than almost 7 million people, 15 universities, and almost 400 million gross-national product in that region. And once Jonas will build the train to Stockholm, he can continue to Marienhamn to Turku and to Helsinki. And in that way, we connect all the capitals of the Nordic together. So maybe that was
Very well.
on my behalf.
Thank you. Dingmar, your thoughts?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's a great privilege to come joining you, also to bring some maybe perspective from the eastern part of Finland. So when we look at this map at the moment, it is so true that when we think about the border regions, we have been, well, mostly trading toward the east, and now there's nothing there, right? So as our moderator said, the situation is what it is, and it's the last time for the border region to also look west and concentrate on this Nordic framework which we are building here. And the connectivity is a base, is a fundamental for all growth and for all vitality activities. So, and I think we will hear more about this railway connectivity, but it is also very important to talk about the maritime connectivity, especially from the Eastern Finland point of view, the access for the industries to the seaport and so on, as well as air connectivity in the future. I believe that the electric aircrafts are coming, and for that there will be another way, another possibility for the Nordics to be connected even more efficiently in the future. And also talking about the security point of view, the data connectivity, which has been one of the topic already today earlier, that is something we need to consider. And from a social point of view, again, I would hope, and I see the opportunity in mobility, more mobility among the Nordic countries, and look at the youth, the mobility of the youth, of the talents, but also the cooperation between higher education institutions, bringing the Nordic identity together and creating the resilience, which is what we need here. Mm-hmm.
Very well. Jonas Karlsson, you are the CEO of Oslo-Stockholm 2.55. Your company is developing a high-speed rail connection between Stockholm and Oslo, which could be completed in the early 2040s. How has this project progressed, and what lessons could Finland draw from it? From your perspective, how does the need for Nordic integration present itself, and could you envisage a fixed connection to Finland as a natural continuation of your project?
A lot of questions. I feel the pressure here when I see this map, which I think is really good. First of all, I think if I put it in perspective, I would say that the first step in solving a problem is to acknowledge that you have one. And I would say that even though the Nordic cooperation has always been great, it's been more friendly than strategic, I would say. And it's time to move from friendly to strategic. It's the time to move in a way to look across the borders, because I know, of course, more about the planning in Sweden and in Norway, because that's my main work, but we have the same problem. It's very hard to establish cross-border connections, even though they are kind of obvious if you look at the map. When we started working with this project, I started working with this almost 9 years ago, this was not on the agenda, I would say. The focus in Sweden has for a long time been north to south. And west to east or east to west has not been very much of a discussion, even though this is kind of an obvious connection. For your information, today it's like 19 flights a day in each direction between Stockholm and Oslo, so it's one of the biggest flight connections in the world, actually, if you look at the intensity of the traffic. But the railway connection is like not competitive at all. It's almost 6-hour travel time to go 400 kilometers between Stockholm and Oslo. So this company was formed by the regions and the major cities from Stockholm to Oslo in order to promote this and find ways and try and find solutions. So that is, of course, and we did that from a point of view, of course, for sustainability, but also from a point of view of competitiveness. We can't take like the competitiveness from the Nordic region and further north in the Nordic region, if you compare to Öresund's area. We can't take that for granted. We have to work in order to stay competitive, and that is something we have to do together. And of course, these kind of like east-west connection, Finland, Sweden, Norway, would be a very strong driving force in that way. What's happened since then is, of course, I would say that 9 years ago, this connection was not on the agenda. But today it definitely are. I would not say that it's not decided. It's not. We have not started building, but I would say there's much more on the agenda. Both from the competitiveness perspective, but of course we also have got help from the defense perspective, which of course is very strong now. It's a bit sad, but it's also put a lot of emphasis on this kind of connection. So what we are seeing are steps taken forward. We have a joint feasibility study from the Swedish and Norwegian government. Now we need to make the next step in the planning. We are doing studies together with the Transport Administration in Sweden on part in Sweden. But the Swedish way of building infrastructure is not like start from A and build to B. We know the Swedish way is which put it in small pieces and try to take one piece at a time. That's kind of annoying from my perspective because I want to see this like transition going faster. Of course, that's my work. Of course, you can see from a European Union perspective, we had a discussion yesterday, and I would say that I think here the European Union actually is a big driving force. Oslo-Stockholm was not on the TEN-T map before, it is now. I saw in the new CEF3 proposal that we actually were pointed out specifically, I think in one of two projects in Sweden as prioritized. It's a proposition still, but it shows there's a strong driving force behind this, and we see that there is a movement. But and we try to do everything we can to push this forward. And lastly, I would say that we have tried to have a different approach on this as well, not only making demands to the national level. We have tried to catch interest by trying to make proposals how to solve the problem. Of course, in this connection between Oslo and Stockholm, as I said, it's 19 flights a day in each direction. There are already a huge traveling going on. The Swedish and Norwegian economy is very much integrated with export. Norway is number one or number two, depending on which year you look at, as the export country from Sweden. There are a lot of traveling going on. There's a lot of business going on. There is a market here already. So we have worked quite a lot with showing how this kind of connection could be financed. Because the national level, the government's money are limited, of course. The queue for new investments is very strong. We try to work with, not at least the private sector, the financial sector, in order to show ways of how this can be done. And there we can see actually quite big political shift in Sweden right now. We have been very much against traditional in Sweden alternative finance of infrastructure, but there is happening things fast now.
Very interesting.
Sorry, I had one more. You had one question.
Yes, of course.
If you look at the map, I think the connection between Stockholm and Finland is kind of obvious, isn't it? I'm not the technical expert. I have not looked into the challenges of building a fixed connection, of course. But it's kind of obvious that you have to find a working connection. And that would, Oslo, Stockholm, Helsinki would, of course, make this a lot stronger. What kind of solution? I would be really interesting to participate in discussions about that, but it's, that we have to find a solution. That's kind of obvious.
Perfect.
Maybe I use this opportunity to also, when you look at the map, Ma already mentioned something very important, and I will just briefly, air traffic. I'm a mayor of a city where the Finland's main airport is, but also I'm the vice president of the European airport regions. And this is a very worrying picture, also strategic, what happens in the north right now. SAS was basically went into bankrupt and was now took over by Air France KLM. Just very recently. So one Nordic project collapsed. You know, it was a strategic project originally, like founding Finnair in Finland was also a strategic project to make sure that we have connections and connections that are good for the society. Now KLM and Air France have taken over SAS, that they have already announced, which is very big for Sweden, that Stockholm will not be a hub anymore. It will be Copenhagen. So Stockholm is supporting. First, you have to fly to Copenhagen and take a longer. So they say Copenhagen will be hub for the whole north, and Stockholm will have to support Copenhagen. For Sweden, this has been a big, of course, mentally also very. Stockholm, Arlanda will not be the hub. It will be Copenhagen. And they have taken over it. And this summer it was finalized.
And the same for Oslo.
Yeah, same for Oslo. And also Oslo will be hub. Norwegian now is growing because they will have a different city. But for SAS, old SAS is now gone. Doesn't exist anymore. And KLM will build it as a Air France, as a Copenhagen is hub. And everybody flies to Copenhagen first and then you fly further. So very little media have been around. This is a big thing for the Nordic countries. And then at the same time, we have lost the Asia connections. That means our national airline, Finnair, and the position of our airport is weaker because we have lost, for example, in Vantaa, we have lost 6,000 jobs because of no Asia flights. You heard it right, 6,000 jobs are gone because the Asia flights are not there anymore. And over 6 million passengers have been lost. So we can't develop the region also without having flight connections. And the electric planes and the hydrogen planes, when they come in 2030s, the 35 maybe, they will be first perfect for 1 hour distances. So Helsinki-Tallinn will be perfect for electric airplanes, 60 kilometers. So they can cover that, but they will also change this picture. But I'm just saying, don't forget that also, if we lose the air connections between our cities and the importance of our airports, then we also lose the big part of our competitiveness.
Yes, very good points. And what I'm about to say is that this kind of connection is not replacing sea
exactly
traffic, neither flight traffic. But what we see is that is one motivation for Greater Stockholm area to look to the east, because they are losing the economic power in that way as well, and that would bring them a new kind of possibility to growth. But as we have seen, for example, in channel between Great Britain and France, there is still the sea transport is there and flights are going. So this is not. I think this is, first of all, this is for the people. This is for R&D, and now once we know that the NATO's northern logistical center will be in Enköping, 300 kilometers from here. So it would be very convenient also to transport troops, components, and something else as well. So this is the future. And one more thing is that this will take time. But if we have the same idea and vision, sharing that with Greater Stockholm region, we immediately start to do cooperation. Cooperation means innovation. Innovation means new type of economic vitality and so on. So I think now it's time to start to just make decisions and start to go towards this.
This all sounds very good. Now, in the course of the past 3 days, we have heard various skillful politicians. And now I would like to ask Saara Sofia Sirén and Pekka Timonen, is the political will strong enough to ensure that high-speed connections move forward, both nationally and within the EU? And how can Finland proactively advance its interest in this matter already at an early stage?
Yeah, shall I start?
Yes, please.
I think the challenge when it comes to politics in general is that often in politics we think too short term. And now what we need to do when we are talking about projects as big as this one, both in investment and in a timeline and on a strategic level, it needs more work. But we need to start this work from somewhere. And this is maybe a boring answer of a politician, but I immediately start thinking about the structures that we have that we can actually use. The structures that we already have for cooperation, for example, the Nordic Council and the Council of Ministers and the transportation cooperation that could be discussed in this form. Then, of course, we have the EU programs and the EU funding. We have the MFF negotiations going on, and this is a big place for us to think what can be done. We have the NATO structures, obviously, and the EU military mobility. But where we need to start here on national level is, of course, to build the will here. And luckily in the government program, also of the current government, we talk about Nordic transportation systems. We talk about Nordic cooperation, obviously. There is a very strong political will to strengthen this cooperation. And also about cross-border linkages and routes and transportation. So there is a lot of structures that we can actually use if we decide so. The basis is there. There is all possibilities. And actually, this is not the new idea.
No.
This is something that has been in the air for a long time. And I think there is great potential to get people excited and politicians excited about this possibility because of security, because of competitiveness, because we want to be more involved in the Nordic and Western cooperation for obvious reasons.
I would say definitely no. There is not enough political will, as we just heard actually in reality. But the truth is that it's a process. It means that we have to start working together in these different structures in order to move forward. And then it's very important that somehow during these structures comes something what we call a shared vision and the shared goals. And this is what we are not having now. Each country has a little bit their own, and they haven't been put together. And in this process, I really hope that in Finnish political life, but also in Sweden, Norway, and Denmark, we find powerful politicians who are willing to step forward and say, look, we have to do this. We don't know whether we make money tomorrow. We don't know whether it's, if it's better than doing something else in our country. But in order to create something that makes new things possible, we have to take risks. We have to move forward and then calculate how that works. Because what Finland needs, and all our Nordic countries, is opening these new visions and new pathways of doing new things. By the way, I didn't ask if you have asked any Chinese guys to come over, and because they would say 2040 is, ooh, is there a big mountain in your road? Yeah. So I'm saying that, but I'm saying this in reality. This is the world. We are competing with these guys. So when they are able to create new connections and possibilities, then global business and global community, they are looking us, what you are capable of doing. We have to be capable of doing new things, otherwise we are worried. So I would say the Nordic collaboration, we all understand language has been important. We all understand the discussion of a cultural unity, what we already have, and societies are similar. But it sounds like that the discussion on what to do next, that's the discussion. Actions, what we do next. And let's agree that for 2 years there are no beautiful public speeches about how we are connected through history and language and all that. That all speeches must have a concrete proposal, what we do next together.
Mr. Carlson, now I would like to ask you, what is the political will in Sweden?
I say that there is a growing awareness that we need to do things, and I would say that the security situation is a huge driving force in that. if you start with a high-speed train, that's been a discussion. If you follow Swedish media for some reason, you could say that we have decided not to build high-speed rails, but we have kind of a different definition of high-speed rails in Sweden. We say we stay to 250 kilometers per hour, not a separate system going above that. But that system is being built step by step. So that's a will. There is, I think, in Sweden, like in many other places, I think politicians are a bit afraid of big visions because, of course, there is connected to costs. And also the problem that you were talking about, the long-term and short-term perspective. To start something in this area means that someone else has to finish it, and then it's much more interesting to build something that you can finish yourself. But that is a huge problem, I would say, in this kind of issue, because you need to have a long-term perspective. And we have, of course, not worked with Chinese companies. We looked at European companies mainly for our project, but I think there still is things you can learn from the Chinese technology, for example, and how fast they can build railways. So that is, of course. I would also say on this map, it looks like there is nothing between Stockholm and Oslo. For example, my city, Örebro, somewhere in between there is not marked. I think train has a huge potential that's not part of air traffic. A regional development along the way. So there's many people, there's millions of people living between Stockholm and Oslo as well, which you can integrate in a system like that. And that is one of the reasons that we also need railway transport. And also for some information between Stockholm and Oslo, like over 50% of people who work in the defense industry in Sweden works between Stockholm and Oslo. And that's quite a big thing in Sweden from a historical perspective. So I think we are getting there, but it's from my perspective, we're moving slowly, and we might not have the time if we want to stay competitive, and if we have to improve our security. So it's. I hope when I come back here a couple of years from now that we can say that we have decided. But the first step, I think, is you're correct. We need people when we gather, like in Nordic meetings, to take steps forward. That's the main thing. We have to stop being nice to each other and instead negotiate progress. Or not at least only be nice.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah, just briefly, that is actually what we are doing. We are now establishing very good connections with the region, both Mälarend region and Stockholm region, and of course in Åland Island. And so we have to be in the regional level, local level, have the social acceptance, but also on the high level. And that's why we have also discussed with DG Movement and 10T network was mentioned. And our next goal is to be on the official list of 10T networks cross-border platforms. And the year will be 2028. So that is our next step. And also the one thing is that in Finland, as you mentioned, it's not right. This fixed connection is not at the moment on the government's hottest topic. But on the next governmental program, we work that it will be there.
I hope they start with the map exercise.
We are doing that, actually.
Very well. I feel that we are just getting started, but I'm looking at the clock, so now it's time for a closing round, 30 seconds. If you could implement only one measure in the coming years to promote Nordic integration, what would it be and why? 30 seconds. Sara.
I'll start with the strategic vision that is shared. We need this, and it needs to be concrete. And what better place to start than infrastructure? When it works, all other forms of cooperation works too.
Yes, we have to be connected to West, and that is number one to Finland to do. And it has to be fixed link in the future. So we have to start to really connect our economics, innovation, and as mentioned, we have to really show that we are part of the Nordic family.
Pekka.
Well, let's say we agree on the Nordic connection plan, which is a strategic plan which we have done together on how in all different levels our main urban areas will be connected in the future and what measures needs to be done to do that.
Since we already agreed between the Nordic countries that we should be the most integrated region in the world, maybe we should start by answering how.
And Digmar.
Yeah, I think it came there that we need to have this Nordic logistic and transport corridor, what we are seeing together and on the different levels. So not only on the national levels, but also the regional and the local levels. So all agree within that. And again, comparison within the Asia, I don't think that we are lacking finance, we are not lacking technologies. Maybe we are just lacking the decision making that we go forward within that.
Excellent. We have 6 seconds. So just to wrap up, this is the beginning of the beautiful friendship, and now it's up to us to make it happen. Thank you for the panelists and the audience. Thank you very much.